Hi everyone, this is Emily Leiphart here for Tailored Expressions, and in today's video I'm sharing projects using the Stencil Strips freebie promo for October. If you purchase over $100 in the Tailored Expressions web store, you automatically receive 6 free stencil strips. Whether you're already a big fan of stencils or if you're new to stencils, these are fabulous additions to your crafty stash, especially for the holidays. I'm showing you 4 of the 6 stencils here, and I'll be using 3 of these on my 2 cards. The stencils themselves are 6 3/4 inches long, and the stenciling surface is 6 1/4 inches long. What this means is you can angle them on the longest edge of an A2 card, and it will stencil the entire diagonal length. They also work on 5-inch square cards, which are a popular size for holiday cards. I just wanted to show you how versatile they are. I'm also going to be using the Merry Millie stamp set and coordinating dies from the new Christmas release. This is the 3rd set in the Max Millie stamp collection, and it's super cute and can be combined with the other 2 sets. The first thing I'm going to do is stamp the 2 images I'm using. I'll remove the foam insert from the Mini Misty stamping tool since these are rubber cling stamps. I place a panel of sugar cube cardstock, position the stamps, and ink them up with Oreo ink. I ink them up twice to get perfect coverage, and then I can start coloring the images with Copic markers. Both the sugar cube cardstock and Oreo hybrid ink are compatible with alcohol markers. I'm going to put on some music and speed through the coloring process. After the coloring is done, I die cut the images and here's how they look. Aren't they adorable? I just love them. Now I can create the stenciled backgrounds for my 2 cards. I start by taking a loop of washi tape and applying it to the back of my card panel, which is cut down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. This way it doesn't move around when I'm stenciling. Next, I take the larger of the 2 rectangle masking stencils and place it over my panel, aligning it with the etched rectangles so I know that it's perfectly centered. I take sea salt ink and my gray blender brush and softly ink up around the edges of the frame. This will give the impression of a second panel on the card. Now I'm going to use the Joy stencil strip and tuck it behind the rectangle mask so that it's closer to the cardstock around the edges. This way the little letters will get a crisp inking around the edges. I angle the stencil, hold it down with washi tape, and place a scrap piece of paper over the bottom edge so I don't accidentally get ink past the edge of the stencil. I want to create an ombre effect with saltwater taffy, confetti cake, and Cookie Monster. The darkest shade of blue will be at the top of the card, gradually fading down to the lightest blue. I start with saltwater taffy at the bottom of the stencil, then switch to confetti cake, and finish with Cookie Monster. When I remove the masks, you can see the sea salt frame and ombre joy stencil. Now I'm going to use the Set the Scene Clouds stencils to create an anchor or snowy hills for Millie and her reindeer friend. I used 2 of the cloud stencils to create mounds of snow in the background at the base of the panel. Again, I slide the stencil under the rectangle mask and ink blend with sea salt ink. I switch to a second cloud stencil for variation and then add a bit more sea salt ink at the base of the rectangle to create more of a shadow in the snow. I also want to create a more subtle snowfall coming from the blue joy words, so I'm going to use the polka dot stencil strip. Again, I angle it just below the joy words, and this time I'm going to use the sea salt ink. I want to keep it very soft since I'll be stamping the sentiment on top of it. I'm going to use the 'Tis the Season to be Jolly sentiment, and since it's going on an angle to follow the stenciled joy words, I'm going to test it out first on a piece of acetate to make sure it's aligned. It's quite crooked the first time I do it, but this is why I'm testing it. I keep making adjustments until I get it aligned perfectly. Then I can remove the acetate and stamp it directly onto the panel. Now I adhere the panel to a watermelon card base, attach the images with sticky circles, and now my card is done. Here's a closer look at the finished card, with stenciled rectangle frame, angled joy stenciling, soft snowfall, and snow hills, plus the adorable image of Millie hanging ornaments on her reindeer friend, who's questioning whether the fifth ornament will fit on her antlers. They're just so cute! Moving on to the second card, I'm going to use one of the square windows masking stencils and the same 3 blue inks from the first card to create the outdoor scene in the window. I start with saltwater taffy and lightly ink blend around each window, laying more ink on the upper right-hand corner. After ink blending with saltwater taffy, confetti cake, and cookie monster, I wipe down the stencil so I can use the tree stencil without worrying that I'll bring blue into those trees. Again, I slide the stencil strip under the window stencil so it's closest to the cardstock and will get crisp, clear edges when ink blending. This time, I'll be using lime zest, pea pod, and cilantro to create an ombre effect in the trees, with the darkest shade at the bottom of the window. Since I want some trees showing in the upper 2 windows, I move the stencil up and ink blend another row of trees using lime zest ink. After doing the acetate test with this sentiment, I stamp it directly on the panel and now I can finish the scene. Millie and Santa look like they're floating in air above the sentiment, so I'm going to use neutral gray Copic markers to create an anchor in the form of shadows. This is very easy to do, and all you need is a few shades of gray to draw rough lines, then blend them together with the colorless blender. When that's done, I attach the panel to a confetti cake card base and adhere the images. I pop up Millie and Santa with sticky circles and attach the hearts with liquid glue. I use the negative from the die-cut panel to position the hearts as close to their original positions as possible before attaching them to the panel. Now my second card is done. Here's a closer look at the finished card. It doesn't get more adorable than this. And here are the 2 cards side by side. I hope you're inspired to create with the Christmas release and free stencil strips. Thank you so much for watching. You can find all of these products in the Tailored Expressions web store at tailoredexpressions.com. I'll see you again soon.